Hi guys. Um, for those of you who have been sort of around, you will know that I have tried to start this twice now, and I've been interrupted both times. So I'm just going to dive straight in. You know what it is from the title. I'm just going to go into it. I can't be bothered to faff around because I'll just get interrupted again. So here we go. I will be discussing the themes of Chaucer's Wife of Bath. So I feel like I'm repeating myself because I am, but you guys don't know that. So first we're going to consider male roles. Now, there are three sort of main points that I picked out from male roles. We have male experience / authority controlling women, women taking up traditionally male roles, and male power as the norm. So they're sort of the main things that I'm going to sort of deal with on a little postcard and such. And here we have my more extended notes that are very creased because I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to deal with 3 line sets, delving around the tale and the prologue, and these are the first one of these is 882 to 898, and that is just at the beginning of the tale. So find that if you want to find it. And here we go. Okay. So the first thing I thought of in these lines is that violence seems to be inherent to men, and this would primarily come about in the form of the rape. So we have the quote, by very force he raft her maidenhead. Now, if you don't know the story of the tale, don't know why you're watching this, you should probably go read it, probably, or study it. You know, this is sort of just revision. But basically, the knight is of King Arthur's court, and he is riding one day. He sees a young maiden, and he rapes her. So I will repeat the quote again. By very force he raft her maidenhead. The language in this is quite interesting. With force is placed just before caesura in the comma, so that emphasizes the force with which he does it and the violence. As well as this, the verb raft is quite plosive, it's quite violent, so that would also suggest violence. But I think the most interesting thing about this is the concept of maidenhead, and this is where you can sort of bring in contextual stuff to get that AO3 if you're on the Edexcel spec. Basically, maidenhead in Chaucerian England was a woman's most valuable asset. She didn't normally work. She didn't really have anything else. So in marriage, especially in nobility, maidenhead was the most important thing that a woman could have. And this man has stolen it away. Another interesting contextual link that you can make is Chaucer himself was accused of rape. He was accused of raping a woman called Cecilia de Champagne. Now, could link that in, perhaps with the fact that the man is not punished. Chaucer's a bit of a rape apologist. Maybe he did it. We don't know. We don't know whether it's false. I don't believe that he was prosecuted for it, but I could be wrong. But from my notes, I don't believe he had been. Another contextual fact would be as the man is a knight, it is also against the chivalric code and courtly love. Now, these were two concepts of medieval knights. So, a medieval knight would be bound by the chivalry code. Chivalry was a code, you'll know from King Arthur's stories, it's basically being a gentleman. You are polite to women, you don't get married, you serve your realm. He has gone against this by raping a defenseless young woman. And courtly love is sort of the notion that a knight doesn't actually have a relationship with a noble woman. They admire them from afar, they write them love sonnets and such, but it is never carnal, it's never base, it's never sexual. You'll see it in Shakespeare a lot. But he breaks that. And that's also a concept. The inherent male violence always comes to the fore. Also, the rape is described in a very matter-of-fact tone, and there is a real lack of a true punishment. So maybe it's just normal at the time. Maybe rape's just something that happens. You've got to deal with it. I don't know. Maybe you could decide that for yourself. All of the idea there for you to pick up on. So, in these lines, we also have a bringer of justice in King Arthur, and that's sort of a male role because women are excluded from realms of justice and lawmaking and such. So, with King Arthur, prosecute man, till he his life granted in the place, and yaff him to the queen at all at her will. So Arthur doesn't really do anything. Okay, he's not this action king man that we sort of see in Merlin and other adaptations. He is told, he is pursued to prosecute this knight, and he fails to do it. He hands over responsibility for it to his wife, and he's never actually punished. So perhaps it's showing men aren't very good at justice, especially when it comes to women. It's a very patriarchal world. There is also contextually the King's Statute. This was, I believe, 893 AD, and that suggested that castration or blinding should be a punishment for rape, but this was rarely carried out. So perhaps it shows just people aren't punished for these things because they're men, and the crime has been done towards a woman, and women don't matter, they're second-class citizens. As long as you're not a extremely lower-class man, you will not be prosecuted because women are still ultimately beneath you. There is also a sense of female complicity and lack of punishment. The queen doesn't have someone punished for rape, so it's a complete lack of sort of sisterhood, if we're to use like a sort of Handmaid's Tale era term. Okay, so the next lines would be 197 to 221, and within these we have the wife's description of her first 3 marriages, in which she assumes traditionally masculine roles. So she is very active in her marriage. She twists the marriage debt and such, but we will get to that. So a particular quote would be, "How piteously a night I made him swank," and her husband said, "While away, woe is me." In basically every single part of this section where she is describing her own actions, she is in the active and her husbands are in the passive. So that would reverse the traditional concept of marriage. Women were the passive, men were the active. And it would also go against biblical juncture. So in Corinthians, wives are told to submit to their husbands in everything. Returning to the marriage debt, which I sort of touched on and then didn't go back to. The marriage debt was a concept that happened when you got married, and it was basically to say that whenever either party wants sex, the other party has an obligation to give it to them. And in law, de jure, this happened. De facto, in reality, it was very much the opposite. As you'd expect, men demanded sex and women gave it to them even if they didn't want it, and women never demanded sex because they had no what's the word? They had no ability to do that, no real possibility to do that. It's a very naive idea of justice that you can't get in a naturally biased society. And conversely, we have men reduced to submissive roles. They are called a debtor and thrall. That is in another line set, but it's also always an interesting thing to look at. And she governed them so well. And such. I've just realised that I've spent 10 minutes on 2 line sets, so I might speed it up a little bit and not do language analysis. Sorry. If you want it, please tell me. So lines 1 to 29. Now, the very start. Men are authorities and women are experience. The wife pits male authority against her own experience. Even in her very first line, she pits experience and authority at either side of the line. She questions St. Jerome's interpretations of the Samaritan woman, that the Samaritan woman is a lesson that you can only marry once, when in reality she's saying that's complete rubbish. And there's a lot of quod he, said he. It's very male centric, and the wife is pointing that out. She's sort of saying, men dictate our lives and we don't question it, and we should. And that's exactly what she does. And later on in her prologue, she says, who painted the lion? To say who painted women, who portrays women, and obviously that's men. So you can never really get a true, authentic female experience unless it is written by a woman, which I think is fair. Okay, so next we will quite obviously move on to female roles with my pink little card. So the 3 main points, or 4 main points, okay. The 4 main points I sort of came up in this one are the wife's subversion of traditional female roles, the dutiful wife, the old woman at the end, and discrepancy between authorities and reality and objects for men to control. As you can tell from those 4 points, women are very passive. So I've picked up 3 line sets for this particular theme. Let me just have a sip of my tea. Try not to spill it all over you. There we go. So 197 to 223, we've just looked at those, so you shouldn't have to go too far. So there is a reversal of traditional power dynamics, and women are in the dominant role, which is obviously untraditional. So that's basically the same point as the male one that I've just gone into. I made him swing, I governed him so well, wives submitted to your husbands in everything, and men are the unlucky party, they are the traditional female role. So in these lines we see a reversal of traditional gender roles, much like the one that I've just described, so I'm going to do it again. Female roles 1239 to 1256. We have the old woman becoming a perfect, dutiful, and submissive wife. So we are told she obeyed him in everything. She says, "Do with my life and death as you please." And this happy ending seemingly results in the woman giving up power and restoring traditional power dynamics, which would suggest that balance can only be restored when women are in their place as sort of the dutiful, submissive wife. And this is obviously a contrast to the wife's active nature. So it's sort of tradition versus a wicked wife who stands up for women's rights. Then the last line set is 686 to 706, and this deals with women's representations by authorities. The wife herself says, who painted the lion, and therefore no woman of no clerk is praised. So the wife sort of shows this negative representation by critics, by church fathers, and she points out that women can't escape this, and women's roles are forced into this, and it's very unfair. But this could be problematic with the wife, though, because in the same line set, she suggests that to be awful is women's nature. So men paint women as awful, but that's only natural. Women are naturally awful. So the wife, she's a problematic lady. She says, Venus loveth riot and dispense, and Mercury loveth wisdom and science. So she reduces men and women to separate spheres. Women are the wicked wives who are naturally fickle and awful and passionate, and men are the wise ones who are logical and such. It's very much a reduction, and I think we see it in modern day as well, with men going towards science and women going towards arty things. She says arty things when she's doing it herself. Hi. But yes, it's very traditional, and we still see it today, which is bad. We shouldn't still see it today. So That is one page that was. I have quite a lot of these. I might have to do more than one stream. You know what? I think I might just do 15 minutes more, maybe. I have a concert tonight, so can't do all my life. Let me just find my card for this one. There we go. So next, we're going to deal with appearance versus reality. Now, the three main points I picked up for this one were authority's representation of women versus their own reality, the appearance of justice versus the reality, and deception by women of men. They are just to get your mind going. Okay, so the first line set I dealt with was 686 to 706, and this is the critique of authority's portrayal of women. Again, who painted the Leon? No woman of no clerk is praised. And ironically, this critique is followed by her saying that all women are naturally wicked. With Venus loveth riot and dispense, Theophrastus' Golden Book of Marriage shows this as well. That's contextual. That's sort of a book of wicked wives. It's probably the one that Jankin had that she attacked and tore out of his hands. So yes, it's very much not great. Not great. Well, yeah, she's critiquing the fact that women are portrayed as these evil beings. In reality, they're not. But then she contradicts herself at the same time, which is always a typical feature of the wife, which we love her for. But at the same time, strongly worry about her. So the next line set, 1239 to 1256, or 2000. There are 2000 lines, ignore me. So it's a bit like, in this section we have the old woman turning into the beautiful, dutiful wife. And here we have sort of an appearance versus an internal essence. So she says, cast up the curtain, look how that it is. And I think the curtain is the perfect metaphor for this, because the night does not allow for the old woman's personality because of her outer ugliness. If she's ugly on the outside, she must be ugly on the inside. And it's not true. And when she's beautiful, he listens to her. So he very much conflates appearance with reality, whereas Chaucer himself is, I think, intent on separating the two, even though there was that medieval belief in physiognomy that said that your appearance dictated your reality. For example, if you had a gap tooth, you were promiscuous and such. We also have to the audience. So we believe we're getting a strong woman with the old woman. We are told, she says, "Namo ye me reprieve," stop telling me off, pretty much. And then we are told she obeyed him in everything, and it's shocking, really. I mean, we go from a rather strong woman talking about how awful poverty is, how you can't judge people and how they are, and we get a dutiful wife who, in the end, does not punish her husband, and in fact rewards him. So, you know, that could be a conflict. I think it certainly is. And then the lines 882 to 893, back to the rape again. So we have an appearance of a chivalrous knight versus the reality of a rapist. So the knight would be bound by the chivalric code, but he still rapes a young girl. So it's sort of, you can't trust people's titles. People aren't always going to do what you expect them to do. As well as this, we have appearance of justice versus reality. So we are told that he should have lost his head. That doesn't necessarily mean that he has lost his head, and obviously he hasn't. He's actually rewarded with a beautiful wife. So it's only the appearance of a punishment. When you actually look into it, it's not a punishment at all. It's actually more of a reward, momentary punishment and ultimate reward. It's not great. So that's a very quick slapdash of appearance versus reality, but you know, it's to get you going. So next, I have transgression. you are going to watch me trying to find the relevant card here. That's quick. So here we go. Somehow they've got out of order. I had them in order, but they're not anymore, so that's a bit sad. So transgression. So the 3 points I sort of came up with for this one were men seem to get away with transgressions. There are transgressions against the authorities and the Bible, and there is female transgression against society. I was a bit stuck on this one, to be honest. I found this one quite difficult. I picked up this theme off of a website online, and I found it quite, it's a difficult one. I mean, if you guys have any ideas, please let me know, because it did stump me, and it took me a while to figure out those 3 themes. So, you know, and also from the fact of how short my notes on this are, you can tell that I had quite a lot of trouble. But anyway, transgression. So the first line set, obviously my favourite line sets, 886 to 916, the rape. So we have men transgressing. So he rapes her. It was obviously a very severe crime. There is punishment by statute for blinding or castration. He's also described as a lusty bachelor, and lust is a cardinal sin. So he's certainly transgressing against God, he's transgressing against the law, he's transgressing against society, he's transgressing against this young woman. But then there is also sort of a transgression against justice in the fact that there is no real punishment. He should have lost his head, he doesn't. He chose to leave, he chose him for the wind. There's no real punishment. He gets to choose where he's going to go. He gets to choose his future, and he even gets rewarded at the ultimate end. So I think that very much shows that men transgress, but they don't really seem to be punished for it. And that is very much the opposite with women, where the wife is punished for transgression by the constant attack of authorities. So next lines would be lines 686 to 706, and we have the wife rebelling against authorities. So she's transgressing against them, and she's saying, "Who painted the lion? It is impossible that any clerk will speak good of wives." She questions their authority, and this would be a transgression against society, because there was very much great emphasis placed on the importance of authorities, the importance of people like Saint Jerome, people like I've forgotten every other authority, Jovinian, Saint Augustine, all of those people. They had a lot of societal power, and the wife questions this, and this was bad, because this was like questioning men, and men were the ultimate power. By doing this, you're going against society, you're going against the proper order of things, and this would definitely be a transgression if you look at it from Chaucerian England's point of view. Then we have lines 1 to 29, going against authorities. She transgresses against authority. She says, "Men may divine and gloat and up and down, experience though none authority." She goes against the biblical juncture that women should be quiet, and she transgresses. She goes against Aristotle's idea that silence is a woman's glory. She pushes past all of that, and that's certainly a transgression against male control, male power. That's all I got for this one. I found this very difficult, personally. So if you have any ideas, please do let me know, because it would be very useful. And can't do everything for you. Gotta give something back. So next we have justice. Let's see if I can find my card, huh? There we go. First one I look at. Pretty good. Okay. So there are 3 main points for this one that I came up with. Lack of justice, unjust authorities dictating women's lives, and justice in the hands of men. So primarily, and obviously I believe the most important lines for justice are again the rape. There is a lack of justice because he rapes her and he's never punished properly and mortally her head. That means despite all she could do. So that makes it quite a sad detail. She tried everything she could to stop him, but was completely unable. And the king's statute should be blinding or castration for rape, but it's rarely carried out, and that would suggest that there is no real justice. I mean, we are told that there was such pursuit unto King Arthur, but nothing's really done. As well as this, men as the agents of justice don't really give much real justice, which would be an interesting thing to look at. Then in lines 197 to 233, I looked at karmic justice. It's the possibility of it, though. We don't know whether it's definitely karmic justice. That all depends on your perspective. So, karmic justice, these men are bounden unto me. How piteously a night I made him shrink. The wife, in my opinion, seems to get justice for how men have treated women in the past, like she does with the book and Jankin. She asserts her own voice, and she goes against all of these biblical junctures. Men were encouraged to beat their wives quite violently by church fathers, and the wife gets justice for this in how she treats her men, you could suggest. Then the wife treats her husband unjustly, technically. They say, woe is me, she governs them so well. And in Proverbs, I believe the quote is, the woman whose lips are as sweet as honey, in the end, she is as bitter as poison. That's from Proverbs in the Bible. So the woman, I'm not talking, the wife, she begins quite sweet to her husband. If you'll remember, she says, "Oh, how meekly looketh Bolden our sheep. She's very sweet to them. She let me bar thy cheek. She's very kind." And then she turns into a viper. Like she's like, "Oh, you think I'm cheating on you? Why'd you go around the neighbour's house? Why does the neighbour look better than me? I just sit at home all day." So she very much fits that proverb. She is sort of a wicked wife in some ways. Okay, so that's karmic justice and unjust treatment of the husbands. Of course, it is completely up to your viewpoint, but it is good to explore different viewpoints. So you could have those two paragraphs as interesting foils to one another. Then 680. I can't tell whether I've written 6 or 9. I think I've written 9 to 706. So there's injustice done to women by authorities. It is an impossible that any clerk will speak good of wives unless it is of holy saints. This sort of brings out what I would call, and what many other people would call, it's not just me, the angel-whore dichotomy. This is a I can speak. This is a dichotomy in which women are either categorized as angels or as whores. So one example outside of the Wife of Bath would be in Othello. So Arthur Little describes Desdemona's change from as a metamorphosis from a perfect wife, a pure virgin, into an adulterous whore. And that's sort of what the wife is getting at here. Men don't speak good of wives unless they're holy saints. So it's very much the sense that women are either evil. I'll use my coin. They're either like beautiful, saintly people, or they're whores. They don't fit. There is no in between. There is no in between a coin and a pen. They are completely different things. There's also who painted the lion and the mark of Adam. The mention of Adam here is sort of bringing it back to original sin. It's all the woman's fault. Everything wrong with the world is women's fault because Eve ate the apple, apparently. So yes. I'm not going to speak about age because I hate it. So you can ignore that. If you want me to, I will in the future, but not right now. Don't put me through that hell right now. Okay. Right, I think I'm going to leave this one here. so I can make more detailed notes and come revisit these. So I have more. Don't worry, I have more. I haven't just not done them. I've decided to leave them to another day because I'm very tired and I have a concert later, so I should probably focus on getting ready for that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have anything you'd like me to add to these or you think I should consider, please do let me know. I won't be offended if you think my points are rubbish. Feel free to discuss in the comments about anything that I've said if you want. And yeah, always remember in the description there is a list of the A levels that I take and stuff that I can sort of teach you. If it's anything outside the A levels that I'm doing, please do leave it till summer, and then I will happily explain it to you after my exams are over. I will learn for you. I will happily go through an entire Shakespeare drama to help you. But yes, thank you very much for watching. I hope that was helpful, and I will hopefully continue these little theme snapshots another time. It should be soon, possibly on Wednesday. I haven't quite decided. I haven't sorted out my timetable for Wednesday, but I will, I promise. Okay, so thank you very much. I love you, and see you next time. Bye.